Yeah, we had lots of ideas. I mean, I think mainly because, where the great thing about the license that we have is it is the comic book license. So we have 70 years of history to plug into, and that's amazing for us, And right at the start, we knew we were going to write a story specifically for Batman, for the Batman Arkham Asylum, and that's great because games have a very different kind of narrative thread to any other medium, I think, where you have this kind of 12 to 15 hour story, and you need an arc that really represents that, which has these hourly kind of crescendos that you're always pushing towards. And if you take a film and kind of try and film story and sort of stretch it over that, it's going to snap. So it was great to be able to make a story working with Paul Dini that, especially for the game, and that gave, I think, the whole thing a unique experience. And then on top of that, obviously, we had loads of ideas for things we could do with Batman, because there's so many facets to this character, which I think that was the big challenge for us, really, because there's all these elements of who he is, and we said to ourselves right at the start, like, if we're going to do this, we've got to do it properly, so we can't leave anything out.
And when did the voice actors come into play? Did you always know you wanted them?
I mean, we always knew we wanted them, for sure, Wanting them and getting them is always a slightly different thing. We had a sort of little Joker to play, so to speak, in terms of Paul Dini, because obviously he knows Mark and Kevin so well. So, and Paul was on right from the start of the project. So when we knew that there was the possibility of getting those guys on board, that was kind of the simplest decision of the whole project. Let's get those guys in, definitely.
There's no escape, Joker. I will find you.
Well, I've been doing the voice of Batman since 1991, and I just went in on a cold audition and lucked out. It was the first animated character I ever auditioned for, and just had the right take on the character, and so the producers bought it, and it was for Batman the Animated Series, and that evolved into the Adventures of Batman and Robin, and then the Justice League, and then Batman Beyond. And then in the interim, there were various animated movies that were done, and now the game. It's definitely a lot more than just a job. It's kind of like working on the Statue of Liberty. I mean, it's such an iconic American character, and everyone who grew up with Batman has their own impressions that they've imposed on the character. They have their own take on Batman, and he means something to each kid individually, and each kid becomes an adult, so everyone has their unique personal experience with Batman. So when you're the voice of the character, people kind of invest that experience in you. They project it onto you. The process of working on the games is much more complicated than doing an episode or doing a movie. For one thing, Warner really likes to always have the cast together, doing recordings for the TV shows or the movies. So they're done like radio plays. We're all in a studio together, and there's a great spirit in the room. It's a lot of give and take and feeding off the other actors. Well, these games, when you do them, it's a very different experience because you're alone, essentially, in a booth for 8 hours a day. It's 4-hour sessions, 2 4-hour sessions a day. Imagine that, and doing just line after line after line after line, and you have to feed yourself to keep the energy up and to keep it spontaneous. It's very, very difficult. At the end of the day, I am just wiped. You really are just completely wrung out.
Now, once word got out, the fan community is a very vocal one, and I'm just wondering if, as development progressed and more noise was made about the game as people heard about it, did you guys start to get nervous?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a strange thing because we're on it all the time. You kind of get a bit tunnel vision, so it's kind of good in a way because, I think if you're going to make something that you want other people to be passionate about, you need to be passionate about it yourself and really believe in your vision. So, we were aware, obviously, it's Batman, it's huge, but at the same time, we wanted to sort of stay focused on this vision that we had for Batman. So, yeah, but I think when you're on it every day, it allows you to have that focus.
Now, looking at the gameplay and having played it myself, I'm just curious, where did you guys feel were the gaps that you needed to fill in, given all the previous Batman games and what they were able to kind of encapsulate of the character?
I think one of the things we really wanted to push was the detective element of Batman, because he is the world's greatest detective. So, we felt that was an element that we could really push and do something new with. And not just in terms of just the forensics element, but also getting the player to think like Batman. So the kind of invisible predator element of the game, where you're sort of tracking down and picking off the thugs. You know, you're using detective mode to study them and to figure out where they're going. And I think the rewarding thing for me is that when I watch people play, you know, I always get the same feedback, is that it's the more I think like Batman, the more successful I am in the game. And that's what we really wanted you to do, is kind of get this experience of what is it like to be Batman. You know, that was kind of big driving force for us.
I can take it. I can take anything you throw at me, Bats. Ready for the next round? Take the key to the croc.
Batman Arkham Asylum coming out on August the 25th on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 and PC.